Hello and welcome to the Pawn Pro podcast. Today I have Paul Sanford on with me. Paul is on our team and I feel super honored to be able to have him on the podcast today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tally. Great to be here and great to be at Bravo.
Yes. So I know for people that have been to maybe our like product roundups or that are on the customer advisory board, they might know your background. But for those of you, the listeners that are just listening for the first time meeting you, what's your background? Tell us where you
Yeah,
came
yeah. Where did I come from? I'll spare some of the ugly details, but the quick and short is started in technology 26 years ago with a liberal arts background for the year 2000 of all things. So doing COBOL programming. If some of you are familiar with the movie Office Space, my standard line is I lived that movie. I didn't steal from the company or burn down any buildings or anything like that, but I did write COBOL. Went on to Java development for a while and then led post sales for a startup that was based in Paris. They had about 50 people, which was really
from.
exciting. Wanted to get more into the product definition and strategy, so full-time MBA at Wake Forest, go ACC teams, and really enjoyed that. That parlayed into a full-time opportunity at Microsoft out here in the Seattle area, which brought me to the West Coast. 4 years at Microsoft, and then after Microsoft, progressively in more product and engineering leadership roles with, high growth stage startups that were, pre-IPO to post-IPO, and some have been acquired as well by private equity over the years. So that's the quick high level on my background in terms of the arc of it, in terms of focus and areas that I'm really passionate about: customer experience, platform dynamics, ecosystems, navigating between multiple customer segments, multiple touch points for our customers in terms of delivery of product experiences, mobile, web, client, cloud, on premises, however you want to describe it. Really passionate about building applications that span all those different touch points to make our customers' lives better.
Awesome. So you're head of product and engineering that also encompasses IT. Maybe talk a little bit about the difference between, say, product and engineering. I don't necessarily think that everybody knows what product means
Yeah,
at a SaaS company.
yeah, you bet. So the simplest way to think about it is product is defining the what. Here's what we should be doing. Here's what's important. Defining and talking about the why as well. The why is really, really important. Why is this important? Why do we need to do it? What's the market opportunity? The unmet customer need, or a customer need that is being met, but maybe there are ways to improve upon it. Better mousetrap kind of thinking. So that's really the product area. It's defining that what in the why, and engineering gets into the how, right? So they're going to build it, and then they get so all those details about how we build it. Do we go with some kind of server technology? What version or library of JavaScript do we use to implement this thing? What kind of language do we need to use in the middle tier? All of those details really fall into the engineering space. How many I don't know, cloud instances do we need, to
Right.
support the customer, opportunity? All of that's in the engineering house. So they build it and they get into those, low level details about how they do it. So that's generally the handshake between, product and engineering. Product's responsibility: create great requirements, really understand the customer, understand the market, understand the opportunity out there with data. And then engineering is, high quality, technical leadership and competence, and making sure that what they're building provides optionality so it can scale to meet future demand and future growth in the business.
So the company that you were at before you joined Bravo was Avalara, which is a compliance tech company. And I think that was one of the original things that when I saw your resume, I was like, compliance, because obviously first and foremost, you've got to be really good at compliance if you're at Bravo. And then the whole ecosystem is built around that. So maybe talk to us about your experience in compliance, and then just building. Compliance isn't sexy, but like building beyond that is. So what's been your experience with that?
Look, staying clear of audit risk and all of those things is very glamorous. I'll
Yes.
I'll take slight issue with that. I've been very popular at parties when I start to talk about tax compliance. I'm just saying. No, that's never happened. That's never happened. But it might happen one day. It might happen
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah.
But the fascinating thing for me as a learning experience has been getting into the pawn industry and firearms and the like. There's a huge regulatory component to it. Daily police reports, background checks, all for good reason, right? But if you get sideways on those regulations, it's really hard to do your business. Almost it
Yeah.
can be impossible, and you can be out of business if you don't follow those regulations.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for indirect taxation. Avalara is a global indirect tax company. I led their product organization, building all of their tax compliance offerings. And it was the same dynamic for our customers at Avalara. We were in line in commerce. So if our services were down, customers couldn't create invoices. They couldn't get revenue. They couldn't meet obligations with their partners and their customers. Same thing at Bravo, right? If our system
Yeah.
is down, we're in line on commerce, right? It's a real time commerce application that has to be up. It has to have high fidelity, high resilience, and high uptime. So we have to have all of that working so that our
Mm-hmm.
customers can continue to build their businesses and conduct commerce, which gets very difficult in regulated industries, especially
Right.
like pawn or retail or any other business or industry that has that regulatory component. It can get very complicated very quick. So getting it right, getting it done fast, and allowing our customers now at Bravo to continue to move forward and just run their business, that is absolutely mission critical. So
Yeah.
those are just some of the overlaps in just kind of the core understanding that I've been able to take from a customer perspective from Avalara all the way
Yeah.
into Bravo, and it extends into the ecosystem as well. So, Avalara had thousands of integrations that we did with ERP systems and point of sale systems, which really helped our customers because that ease of integration when they're doing a transaction at point of sale or if they are writing an invoice, that made it really easy for them to become compliant. Exactly what Bravo's doing around having that ease of integration for something like
Yeah.
E4473. It's right
Yeah.
there in line in the point of sale ERP, so it's really easy to be compliant. So just really excited what I've seen from about Bravo so far in that realm, and there's a lot more we can do to help our customers.
So I want to switch gears into customer advisory board because
Yeah.
this was something that Christy and I, it was like the dreamiest of dreams that we would have a customer advisory board. And we went to every convention for several years running and we put on user groups and we did this for products, but we didn't really have a structured or experienced way to do this. And one of your first initiatives that was highly customer facing besides coming to a few conventions was kicking off customer advisory board. So talk to us about what that experience was like, what you learned from it, how you're feeling about it, what it looks like moving forward.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. Customer advisory boards are things that I've done for many years, and all it is really at its simplest is a gathering of highly enrolled, highly opinionated, which is good. You
Mm-hmm.
need highly opinionated people. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's good feedback, sometimes it's not good feedback. But regardless, you have to have opinions. You have to have passion around the product and
Yeah.
be open to sharing that. So it's a bunch of customers who are very passionate, which Bravo has a huge customer base of very passionate advocates and also people pointing out how we can be doing better, which I highly value. So it's bringing together those folks, on some kind of regular cadence. Right now, we're testing it out. We're going to do quarterly, but we're doing it every month. We're touching base with some customers within the customer advisory board or
Mm-hmm.
others, depending on what's on the roadmap and what we're building, to get that kind of early feedback. When customer advisory boards are working well, and this actually happened in our first kickoff meeting in September, they start to give you insight before you actually ship something so you can modify before you deliver. And that happened for us in a couple of areas when we did the September advisory board. We were able to refine some of our delivery elements to really hit the use case. We were in the ballpark, but we weren't
Yeah.
we weren't on third base, or we didn't hit a home run with exactly what they were looking for. So that feedback in September has already helped us, better dial in the use cases and requirements, before we ship. And it's all about being proactive. So
Yeah.
that's what a customer advisory board really allows us to do. Get early thoughts in front of the customers, get proactive, make changes before we actually ship. And if we get something wrong or there are bugs or unmet needs anywhere in the customer value delivery continuum,
Yeah.
it'll come up in the customer advisory board and we'll address it because we have a great cross section of all of the very talented people at Bravo in customer support, in sales,
Yeah.
in enablement, attending the advisory board as well, so that if there are things that come up that maybe are outside of product but are impacting the customer experience, we have that ability to take that feedback and address it there for them as well.
The October release went really, really smoothly from, I think, an internal and an external perspective. We always sort of the following week were highly, I guess, feedback oriented. And some of those last minute changes, like the configuration on the mobile pawn receipts, yes, no, or renewal versus pawn payment versus layaway. I think we got those right. And had we not had customer advisory board, we probably still would have had a lot of feedback like, you sort of did it, but it doesn't really solve what I actually wanted. So I thought that was really, really awesome. And just the time that was put into that was quickly realized. Like we got to see it 1 month later in almost real time feedback from an advisory board.
Yeah, 100%, and that's when it's working, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
sign that it was a valuable effort to pull that together. And I didn't mention how it came together. It was essentially you just starting to talk to customers. You introduced me to a number. We had some internal salespeople introduce me to folks. I was doing booth duty
Yeah.
at NPA as well. Hey, you have some really good feedback. Do you want to join our customer advisory board? And I was really enthused to see the overwhelming reaction from a lot of people to say, yeah, we want to get engaged and willing to, essentially volunteer their time, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what it is. They're volunteering their time.
Yeah. So another new thing that we just kicked off is our first official beta. We did a beta kind of with 4473. Again, it was us doing our best with the resources that we had with zero experience kicking off beta. But we just launched our first beta for shooting range management, which has been really awesome. So maybe talk to everybody about what betas are and how we plan to use them moving forward as another kind of validation of the products that we're building.
Yeah, 100%. Betas are super, super helpful, especially in the enterprise, B2B space where you have a little more luxury. But you see betas being used even in consumer experiences, B2C.
Yeah.
So it's just a very valuable tool. For the shooting range beta, again, it was just trying to look at the first thing you're trying to look at when you're thinking about product definition. This gets your earlier question too around what does product do and what does engineering do. We had to say for this beta, what functionality should be in the beta.
Yeah.
It seems obvious when you state it, right? But then when you get into the details of, well, should we enable payments for this beta? Well, it's a beta. We don't want to mess up companies' general ledgers or their books or
Yeah.
anything like that. So we're not going to have payments be a feature in this beta. Should we allow for like group tickets or just, single participant? Well, groups are more complicated. We really just need to validate end to end that
Yeah.
lowest common denominator of value. So when you think about a beta, you're just trying to look at what are those threads end to end that deliver the most value at a lowest common denominator. So for us, it was, configure the system, allow inventory to be designated as rental, take a single person and allow them to go through all of the shooting range stages and get them to check out so customers could get familiar with the workflows in the product. So that was a big aspect around any beta, in ours in particular, the definition of it. What functionality goes in, how do you figure that out? And then you start to think about, okay, let's recruit some customers or prospects. And my perspective on betas is they should be open to anybody who wants to participate and again, volunteer their time and get feedback. If it's a customer, great. If it's a prospect, even better, because guess what? We're going to pick up all kinds of interesting information that we probably hadn't had before. So that's just a little bit of perspective on the beta, some of the nuance around it. Going forward, I think that one thing that we've been talking about is how do we best roll out a customer reward, customer loyalty program some of the things around promotions, et cetera. That's it's a big initiative in terms of the footprint, the impact it has on Bravo, but then also the impact that it will have on our customers. So potentially, no promises here, but you might see some beta or kind of one of those designations for some customer reward, customer loyalty program in 2025. So that's the next best candidate, I think, for us
Yeah.
to start to roll out and figure out, okay, what kind of user experience is meaningful? Are we tracking the right reward mechanisms that stores might
Yeah.
want to have? How do you configure it in a way? Because a reward loyalty program for us is, we have to create a platform that allows our customers to impact their consumers.
Right.
So
The
it's like the ultimate,
flexibility.
exactly. It's the
Yeah.
ultimate B2B and then B2C kind of scenario. So I think that's a really good candidate for a beta sometime in 2025.
And
Where
like
our,
the
right,
ecosystem piece of that is so big too, because it's not just in store, but it's e-com and it's mobile and it's
that's right.
notifications and it's like it touches every piece of the platform. I'm
Yep.
really excited about that. That's
Yep.
probably of all of the things in 2025 that I'm most excited for. That I think would be it.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's based on feedback too. I mean,
yeah.
it's all look. Let's be clear. You're the boss, so it's always nice to have
Yeah.
the boss excited, right? So great,
Yeah. I'm excited.
great. I'm just trying to stay employed here, right? So
Yeah.
great. Boss is excited. That's awesome. But it's also, and I know you're excited because you've heard about it
Yeah.
from customers for a long time, and it's been one of the top feedback areas I've heard about in my past, five and
Yeah.
a half months here at Bravo. So
So I think we both agree that developing new products and new services and continuing to push, I think, where retail and where pawn is going is really exciting. And we spend a lot of time thinking about it. I want to spend a second talking about how we continue to optimize and enhance existing functionality, because some of the feedback that we get sometimes is like, Bravo's always trying to build the best and the newest and the like, what's next? Like, what about what's existing? And one of the things when you first came in is like trying to understand the workflows. And we have so many workflows, and some of them are like, it's a one-way workflow that you have to like back out of this way. Or with shooting range management, we had tremendous effort go into UI and UX in a way that I don't think so. User interface and user experience and how our customers are going to interact with that. You put a ton of time and effort into that. I'm wondering if you can talk about how that will now kind of expand into enhancements and optimizations in the way that current customers use the platform every day.
yeah, it's a great question and a great point. And in a way, when you're creating something new like shooting range beta, it's a little bit easier because you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to think about, well, customers have been doing it this way for 5, 10 plus years. So in a way, the new is a bit easier than trying to optimize existing workflows. So if you've attended some of the webinars or heard me talk in public so far in the past 5.5 months, you've heard me refer to Bravo as it's point of sale, but it's also an ERP, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And all an ERP is really is software that enables companies to execute workflows that drive the business.
Right.
And Bravo does a ton of that, right? Like you talk about repairs or loans and E4473. Those are all workflows that Bravo enables. Um, so one of the things that we've been looking at in terms of optimizing existing workflows is it's not super glamorous, but it's just go for the lowest hanging fruit, right? So I was at NPA and I heard, hey, we really need more images for repairs. So I started to look into it, looked into the workflows, talked to the team, like, yeah, I can see that because the value prop for the customers is for our stores is they need a way to keep their customers accountable.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of what you were given, showing its condition. If you try to bring it back later, we're going to have proof that this is how it looked
Yeah.
going out the store, right? So that was a pretty obvious one. One of the areas that we're thinking about for the future is, with respect to how we handle SKUs and, stock management, et cetera. There were a lot of changes that came out, when I joined back in
Mm,
the May June
yeah.
timeframe, and sometimes, it can be helpful to let things bake and sit a bit, right? So that's really been part of the strategy as well for the past couple of months is we put out a lot of changes around, stock management, et cetera. Been looking at, letting that sit. Let's get some feedback on that. That's a top topic in the customer advisory boards.
Yeah.
And so that's generally the approach. What I don't want to have too much of is a lot of back and forth, so
Yeah.
customers get whipsawed. So we made a lot of changes. I think that they were, super helpful changes on balance, but there has been feedback on ways we can improve that. We've heard it, but what I'm trying to do right now is let's get all of that aggregated. Let's look at really clear patterns of feedback
Yeah.
where customers are having to do too many clicks, where it's, completely, devaluing the use
Yeah.
case, right? Like you
Yeah.
and I spent some
Yeah.
time talking about, hey, you know, the way it works right now, we're kind of killing our own value prop. Like
Yeah.
let's not
Yeah.
do that, right?
Yeah.
And then looking at ways that we can make things even better. An example of that would be when we introduce SKU variants. So that's on the roadmap for 2025. You know, red, green, blue, different sizing.
Yeah.
Those kinds of SKU variants. That'll present a big opportunity for us to take a look at some of those workflows end to end. So the short of it is look for the low hanging fruit that's really obvious
Hmm.
and just get really aggressive about addressing that feedback. I heard that in mid July at MPA and we turned it around for the October release.
Yeah.
Like just knock it out, right? It's
Yeah.
obvious. It's been a pain point for a long time. Knock it out. Allow for things to bake a bit, right? Like allow for
Hmm.
feedback to kind of come in, allow for customers to get used to it because sometimes it could just be a adoption issue and we just need to
Yeah.
get comfortable and then we're fine. So allow for serendipity, allow for things to bake, but get that feedback and aggregate it in those key patterns that I mentioned. And then as you're building something new, look at how do you revisit the whole workflow. So you're not just adding on something new to a workflow that might be suboptimal. If you're adding something new, it's a great opportunity and you really have to revisit the overall workflows to make sure we're getting it right.
Yeah. So for a long time, we've had years where like our entire sales org has hit like 500 stores and been in stores and been live. They go to all of the conventions. This is the first year that product has sort of stepped up and said, hey, we want to go on client visits and we want to come to trade shows. Maybe you can talk about our business analysts, them being at trade shows, what that means, the type of feedback we're starting to gather, going on site visits and things like this. I think it's really important because we're all behind screens all day, and getting that real life experience of what's happening in pawn shops is also obviously like the best way for us to develop for pawn shops. So maybe talk about your philosophy about that because that's kind of been a shift since you
Yeah.
started.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to the trade shows, everyone should be demo ready and booth duty ready. So you should understand the product well enough, understand the market, understand customers well enough, so you can get out and be credible in front of customers when you're on a conference, floor, at the booth. So that's something I care a lot about. You really can't, you know, replicate anywhere else that kind of real time feedback. So that's really important. And one of the aspects that just started to implement is I did the first one myself. I didn't impose it on the team until I did one myself. Of course, I've done it before elsewhere,
Yeah.
but every environment is new, right? Every company is new, a new experience. So I wanted to give it a try, and I did in July, and just saw that the dynamics were very similar from what I've experienced in the past. So really, really, really important from a leadership standpoint to say, look, this is important. You can do it. Here's what it looks like. I led by example. I did it, and then set up the team to go ahead and do it. Whether it's at Kappa here, or we have SHOT Show coming up in January, which I'll be at, and another BA on my team will be there as well. So that lead by example, and then encourage and coach through it, especially for people doing things the first time, is really, really important, because we have to have that inherent customer empathy just ingrained, and
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that's what also helps us contextualize and give engineering the best requirements. I was at
Yeah.
this conference, and then they get confident. Okay, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about, right?
Right.
So BAs are kind of like product managers, So we call them BAs here at Bravo, but they're essentially product managers who do all that work around the requirements gathering and definition, the what and the why.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really exciting. The on-site customer visits, I haven't done one yet, but I will. 2 weeks
Yeah.
going on the
Yeah.
road to North Carolina. Looking forward to that. And then have had numerous teams of virtual sessions with customers
Yep.
as well. So the whole point about customer interaction is that it can be data driven, right? So you need to look at aggregate data, but there's no substitute for the face to face or one to one or one to many connection that you get virtually or by
Yeah.
going in the store and seeing the operations. So, when I'm in North Carolina in 2 weeks, they had asked, "What's the agenda? What do you want to talk about?" And I said, "I literally just want to watch you do transactions. I want to look over someone's shoulder
Yep.
and see how they use the product and observe."
Yeah.
And then, of course, get feedback and hear areas that you think we could do better and share some ideas with you. But literally, first order is to just observe and figure out, how are they using the product and, see the clicks they go through because, Bravo is a flexible offering. Maybe they have some shortcuts. And back to your earlier question about how do you enable and
Yeah.
optimize existing workflows, that observation technique is really, really helpful as well.
Yes. Totally. Well, to wrap things up, we're already
Oh,
like just
wow.
cruising
Okay.
through time.
Yeah.
I know. You know what I'm most excited for going into 2025? What are you most looking forward to?
Doing it all.
Doing it
Doing
all.
all the things. Yeah. I mean, we're going to have our version 1 of Range ship on January 21st. In time for SHOT Show. So I'm looking forward to a huge launch at SHOT Show for our shooting range offering, which will be really exciting. And then, I think we're really just getting started in some of the deliveries that we can do around, promotions and that sort of thing. Thinking a lot about, how can we use AI to better
Yeah.
enable the in-store experience for our operators. You think about something as simple as, taking a picture and trying to figure out what item it is, item classification, validation of that item, and have that married with our great estimator data
Yeah.
already driven by AI on the back end. So if you're in Shopkeeper, which is a great mobile app, if you're not using it, you should check it out. But if you're in Shopkeeper, you should be able to take a picture of, PlayStation or anything else, and have AI give you that classification, et cetera, automatically.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm really excited about. No promises again on that, but
I
I,
was
I,
going to
I
touch
really
on AI and
I want to
automation
get to
because
that.
that's like
Yeah,
the future of product. And that's certainly like where we're investing time and money and energy into. Just also further automations for pawnbrokers so that they don't have to do as much manually. I think that's where tech is going, and marrying those two things is going to be really awesome. And we're going to start to see some of those results in 2025. And I think it's really going to make people's lives easier.
yeah, more efficient, and you can imagine, like anybody, then store owners or managers can trust everyone in their store to do an intake,
Yeah.
because they could get a manager approval and they would have a ton of data
Yeah.
supported by AI right on their app to figure out should they do this buy or not, as an example.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining. This has been
this has been
awesome.
great. I
The
love it.
best
Yeah,
part about like I can talk to you all day long. So we could keep going and
likewise,
going.
likewise.
If
Yeah,
people have questions, drop them in the comments and we'll get Paul back on to answer some more product and dev questions. We do release updates now. So every time there's a new release, Paul takes over those and we have the BAs actually show what's in the releases. We'll also do a 2025 kickoff where we'll talk about product and roadmap and show you what we got done this year and what's coming. So this is not the last time you'll hear from Paul, but for now, thank you so much for being on.
thank you, Tally. Look forward to more in the future.
Thanks.
Bye.